Hello Leafs Nation, I'm Rick Scarborough and you're watching Blue and White Weekly, where we bring you weekly updates on the Leafs and the hockey world at large. The Leafs did a thing, and that is what's important. So let's get into a brand new week of Maple Leafs playoff hockey and into the news. Before we dive back into the Battle of Ontario, let's take a look at some news from around the hockey world. The PWHL continues to grow. As you'll recall, last week we reported that Vancouver has been awarded a PWHL franchise, and now they'll have a new friend on the West Coast, as Seattle will be the 8th city to join the Professional Women's Hockey League. They'll be roommates with the Seattle Kraken as they take up residence in Climate Pledge Arena beginning next season. Rick Tocchet announced on Thursday that he is stepping away from his duties as head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, and you know what? I don't really blame him. That whole organization is kind of a mess right now. I wouldn't want anything to do with it either. And now let's take a look at where every series stands as of Friday morning. The Jets and Blues head to Game 6 tonight with the Blues on the brink, but seeing as the game is in St. Louis, I would bet my mortgage that this is going to 7. The Stars and Avalanche are going to 7 after a tremendous performance on home ice from Colorado on Thursday night. The Golden Knights have taken down the Minnesota Wild and, as a consequence, have brought an end to the career of Marc-Andre Fleury. Thank you for everything, Flower. And the Edmonton Oilers stormed back 4 games in a row because, well, Stuart Skinner stopped existing, and they have eliminated the LA Kings. The Battle of Florida wrapped up way earlier than the TV ratings probably wanted them to, as the Panthers take down the Lightning in 6 games. The Capitals and Habs stopped playing on the ice and instead inside the benches, apparently, as the series we all thought would be quick and painless was instead quick and painful for both sides, but the Capitals came out on top. And the Devils were able to take 1 game against the Canes, but it took double overtime just like it did in elimination, and Carolina moves on to face Washington. And now let's get into the Leafs and Sens. Game 4 came at us on Monday, with the Leafs holding all the cards and the 3-0 lead in the series. All they have to do is not take their foot off the gas, play their style of hockey, and the brooms can come out at the end of the night. It's 2-0 Senators halfway through the first. Stützle and Pinto pressed the Leafs early to put the Senators up, but the Leafs cut the lead in 2 in the final minute of the frame thanks to the amulet-fueled stick of John Tavares. In the second, Matthew Knies would continue his rampage in this series, tying the game up on a disgusting breakaway attempt. A goal for either side in the third would send us to OT for the 3rd game in a row, but it wouldn't end like the last few, as in the dying minutes of the first overtime, Jake Sanderson would wire one from the point to get the Sens on the board in the series. And so the series comes back to Toronto, where the Leafs have a chance to close things out at home. So, of course they wouldn't. After a scoreless first period where Matthew Knies ended a Leafs power play early by dumping Shane Pinto firmly on his butt, Thomas Chabot would open up the scoring in the second, and from there everything would go wrong for Toronto as Anthony Stolarz, who didn't have the best of performances in this one, especially compared to earlier in the series, could only contain the chaos for so long. The Leafs got on the power play in the third, but it was the Sens with the advantage as a loose puck leads to a Sens 2-on-1 shorthanded, and Dylan Cousins extends the lead. A pair of empty netters later would seal this off, and the Sens ride off with the 4-0 win to take us back to Ottawa for a Game 6. And you have to think Craig Berube had some words for the Leafs, dropping 2 games in a row because they came out flying in the first period of Game 6, limiting the Senators to just 3 shots before the captain broke through on the power play. Austin Matthews in the clutch. Leafs are on top. The lead would build in the beginning of the second as birthday boy William Nylander scores his first of the night in a game he almost didn't play in. A scoresheet error prior to puck drop mixed Willie up with his brother Alex Nylander, who has been added to Leafs taxi squad for the playoffs. If this mistake wasn't caught and corrected, Willie would have been ineligible to play this game, and we probably would have had Alex Nylander on the line with Pacioretty and Tavares. Brady Tkachuk, also known as the naked mole rat that turned human, would get the Senators on the board before the end of the second. The game would then be tied at third as David Perron scores on the backhand from behind the goal line. Honestly, more impressive than I'm willing to admit, and we're knotted at 2. But as Craig Berube mentioned post-game, there was no defeat, no taking a step back on the Leafs bench. In fact, he said he heard someone say the words, "Let's go get it." Exactly the mentality this Leafs team needs in these playoffs. And go get it they did, as Max Domi finds Max Pacioretty, the Max Connection connects, waiting in front to fire home what would be the game-winning goal. but the game wasn't done yet. With the net empty, the Senators are doing everything they can to save their season, but Scott Laughton dives in front of a point shot. Nylander picks up the ricochet and takes off down the ice to close this one out with his second of the game, 4-2 Leafs, just like the final score of the series. We want to give a shout out to the Ottawa Senators for such a hard-fought series and for making it back into the playoffs. This was a fun series to watch and to cover, and we at Blue and White Weekly hope that the Battle of Ontario will rear its head again next year. But looking ahead, the Leafs advance to the second round, and lying in wait, we find the Florida Panthers, who knocked off the Tampa Bay Lightning much faster than I think anybody anticipated. With two matchups still to be determined in the West, the first round is not over yet, but Chris Johnston of SDPM reported this morning that the fight for the Atlantic Division title between the Panthers and Leafs is looking like it will kick off on Monday with Game 1 in Toronto. We'll have all that for you next time, plus so much more, but for now, thank you very much for watching Leafs Nation. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, go Leafs, go. Come and get us, Panthers.